and then if you add just one matra, it becomes kal. If you add in the third word the matra on la, it becomes kala. And if you add the matras on both the letters, it becomes kala. I found, I was scribbling in my notebook and I found, this is amazing, that you just put one matra and then it becomes kal. When you put a matra on the la, it becomes kala. So such things, actually from such exercises in my notebook, most of the works come from. And it retains that fascination for me, that how amazing, and how amazing that can happen, and each word is so significant. And then I stacked them up one on top of the other, and the title of the work is A Four-Storied House. So that kind of stuff. And then similar works with steel wires, and so I wrote this word erotics. It's like buildings, but the shadow, like a shadow of that is politics. So the erotics makes a shadow, but the word changes in the course of that, and then it becomes politics. And these images are from my studio. We're installing it. Another performative work on a sheet of white velvet. I wrote text pieces, 3 text pieces with black ink dripping from a bottle, so I wrote one text piece. On top of that, I wrote another text piece. On top of that, I wrote another text piece. Finally, you of course don't see any text at all. You can't read any text at all. It only produces visuality of a certain kind. So in that sense, this is what happens actually at the end of the process of performance. And it was also thinking about basically digestion actually, that food, when you have it on a plate, it's all very neatly and beautiful, it looks great, it goes into your stomach, and it's all and I was thinking about how I think mental digestion could be of the same order actually, and that the texts of different people that you admire, that you have to kind of really chew at them and digest them, and only then maybe something can come out. So that was the whole idea. This is a show that was there, mounted recently in Bombay at the project space at the Bhavdaji Lad. Some other works that I have been doing with wires and words, and this is like it's, I think, self-explanatory. There are different sections of poems that I take from people. This is from Nellie Shark's. It says, "Mystery on the border of death, lay a finger upon your lips, silence, silence, silence." It's just a fragment from Nellie Shark's. And the whole idea when I was, this is the second work I've made like this, but the whole idea was just the way birds sit on electrical wires. And the first work that I had called, I'd called it Like a Bird on a Wire. This one is called just Silence. A detail of that. A single word is written many times, almost, like sometimes you're punished and you have these exercises and you have to write the word many, many times. So many times a word is written one on top of the other, and it creates that kind of dense, almost, the word in that sense is insomniac, or is the word itself has gone a little mad. So it kind of, on itself, it keeps writing. This is a fairly large work, but it also has a dense, it's a whole poem of Pasolini. It's a very long poem called The Poetry of the Tradition. I started and I wrote it from beginning to end. So it just creates, and it now, it's actually 5 layers of, it's like a curtain of. So we write these words, then we tie them together, and finally we have one curtain. And finally, to finish the poem, it's 5 layers of words. So it's a very dense kind of curtain of words. And of course, again, you can't see the poem at all. So the poem is available. It's next to the work. People can read the poem if they want. But I'm actually interested in what I can do with the poem. So the poem again then becomes this kind of an armature or a structural skeleton around which a work can be constructed. This is the kind of a detail. This is how it's dense. some areas it's even more dense. Some other works that I've been doing, I took actually 3 stories from Franz Kafka. And this is, I took sheets of paper, and with charcoal I kept writing and slightly rubbing, and the story was long. It finally resulted in something like this. This is the middle stage, and this is the end stage of the story. So it's just keep writing the story from beginning to end and to arrive at a work, arrive at pure abstraction or pure blackness, pure form. But for me, this procedure is, it's like almost I don't do anything. I just decide that, okay, I'm going to write a story. But actually then the work actually is produced by just the absurdity of that action. And then this is one story. Another story produces this kind of a thing, because I think it's a smaller story. But then, of course, I decide to, of course, that the sentence will not go to the edge of the frame, and that it will have this kind of a thing. But once a certain structure is, I just write over it and over it and over it until the story is finished, whatever story I take. Okay, the stories that I wrote, there were 3 stories from Kafka. One is called The Married Couple, the second story is called The Silence of the Sirens, and the third story is The Truth About Sancho Panza. So recently this is the story of, these are the stories that I wrote. This is again to do with found objects, the way I found roots lying while I was traveling to Gurgaon. There was a storm outside my studio, and a large tree branch actually broke and fell. And my assistants told me that, ma'am, this branch has fallen. I'm sure you would like to see it, and maybe you can do something with it. So we went to see it, and then we had a lot of people actually drag it into the studio because. So this is one of the branches from that tree, and this is many years ago. So it was lying for a long time with season ho gaya dheere dheere wo lakdi, and then we covered it with blue velvet, and on the branches of this thing are words, a poem that is actually traveling on these branches the way ants travel on trees, and then it's covered with a net cloth, and then it casts a shadow like this, which is like a big fish, and the shadow in this work is very important, just the way it's very important in that kal kal kala kala, or in the word works. This is how this thing is. And actually the work that I'm showing in the show in Vadera is come out from this. So in my case, it's one thing leads to the other. I just can't imagine a thing. So if I hadn't made this work, I don't think I could have made the work that I'm showing here, because in this work, it's actually the words have become smaller, and they are actually traveling on the branch of this big banyan tree. So only after this work happened that I could actually think of a work like this. And this is the detail. It's a poem from Neruda. It's from Canto something. It was actually again given to me, a show curated by Maya Kovskaya, and in her curatorial note, she had this poem at the head of the curatorial note, and when I read it, I said, Maya, this is perfect for me, can I just use it? So it's like, again, something found that just comes, and it's just perfect, and you say that, you don't have to search for something, it just has come, and so I said, I'm going to use exactly this poem in the work, and I just made this work around that poem. And this is, so you can see, this is when the wax has not spilt in the work upstairs, and you can see how it looks without the wax having spilt. And then this is how we light. We fix the candles with the screws, and then we light it, and then of course we lift and we allow actually the wax to really dictate what will happen to the work. Oh, maybe this is the last one. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita and Anju, both for compressed but telling presentations. They were very interesting. I would like to quickly ask, because there is less time, to throw up just two questions to you, and I think I can address them to both of you. There is something very sinister and dark about both of you in terms of your work. You know, it touches on, there's a sense of darkness, a blackness, some kind of abnormal fears and notions of death that comes through, to me at least, in your presentation as well as in an Anju's. And can you elaborate a bit on that?
Me?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, as I narrated my procedure to you, it does not have this. You know, it does not come from a dark space. But it could be a darkness that comes from the social body, to which you are in that sense a witness, or you're a medium through which that is expressing itself. As I say, things come. Somebody gives you the poem, the branch falls, you bring it in. So the found actually plays a major role in my. I said I don't do that much, you know. I'm not such a willed. I don't use my will that much, and that's a proposition that I'm actually working towards, and I find it very interesting way of working. So the kind of darkness that maybe, as you're pointing out, maybe it is actually inside the social body, and it's if you're a medium that you receive what the social body is actually giving you. So that's the only way I can actually answer the question. In terms of the choice of subject matter, like why do I choose Kafka? Why? I guess, you know, when I was growing up, these are my heroes in that sense, and you know, I still have to pay my homages to the heroes of your. So I think I still am in the process of doing that. But then, you know, lines like from Nelly Sharks, but these are the lines that actually really appeal to me, or really have a sense of capturing maybe the emotion of that moment, not necessarily totally subjectively, but of the whole thing, you know, me as a subject inside a social body. So that kind.
Anju?
I think in my work, I would say that it started getting darker after a point when I would say I've been doing watercolor for more than 20 years. So after a point, you know, I thought that the beautiful luminosity of my medium, I needed to fight it. You know, it had to be. It was just getting too elegant, and I turned to charcoal. And then after I started using charcoal, I found that it gave it a kind of. I enjoyed the linear power that it gave me. And apart from that, when charcoal and water interacts, you know, there was this whole uncertainty, which, you know, these washes of absolutely unpredicted blacks which would turn up, which I thought interested me. You know, the unpredictable process, as well as this possibility of grain and texture, and it somehow also went with the kind of images or the kind of content that I work with.
Which is true, because what I find interesting in your work is the presence of marks and stains and erasures and traces, and very interestingly the choice of your material and medium, especially charcoal and watercolor. And does that, and even in Anita, burning of candle, melting of wax, you know, the whole process that you were talking about, are there any metaphysical or metaphoric implications that are in your mind when you work like that?
For me, this just the fascination with the fact that a word, which is still the fact that it can become 3D, it can become sculptural, it fascinates me. The fact that it can burn fascinates me. That it can actually from form become formless, nothing. It's just, and like Atul was talking about, you know, there is something that completely fascinates you, and what do you do? That's actually the point from which work actually begins. You know, there's no explanation to it. It's just fascinance, you know. And I think that's a very key from which a lot of work actually begins. You really don't know why this complete fascination is there, but because it is there, and the privilege of being an artist is that you can actually you can follow your fascinans. You can actually go with it.
Right.
Yeah.